AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride!
Hour 2. Off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. I'm Matt.
You're a loser, Matt!
Shut up, kid. Paul O'Neill.
They're chanting Paul O'Neill's name.
You, sir. And Mr. Toby Tomplay. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. Todd Walker, bottom of this hour. Chris Smith, Vanity Fair. In about 15 minutes, he wrote the Lane Kiffin piece. Join us, give us some context on what he learned about Lane Kiffin. We'll do that coming up shortly. Wilson Alexander in 1 hour. He had apparently a follow-up with Lane Kiffin, which dropped today. So we'll talk about that with Wilson coming up in a bit. Now with On 3. Moving on from The Advocate, as we know. So congrats to Wilson, national college football writer, but still based here out of Baton Rouge. So excited to catch up with Wilson here in a bit. NFL schedule release is a couple days away. And I am one of those people that, like, I do find the schedule important because the way I often say it is, it's not just who you play, but when and where you play them. For example, for a lot of years with Sean Payton and Drew Brees, they were a rhythm timing-based offense centered around throwing the football. So we always would look for outdoor cold weather games later in the season, right? What November, December, January games did you have at Buffalo or Cleveland or Seattle or Chicago? Because you're going to have to worry about weather. That's significant. Like if you played Buffalo in week 2, that's a better draw than Buffalo in week 15. Right? That matters. So that's part of it. I guess that's relevant to a lesser degree now. Certainly the Saints are still with Kellen Moore, a team that's going to throw the football a good bit. You see what they did in the draft this year, using the 8th pick on a receiver. Three receivers in the draft this year, but probably to a lesser degree than that Peyton Brees offense. Obviously, we know the Saints are going to play in Paris. So where does your bye fall? Typically, teams that play overseas will take their bye after they play overseas. They have the option to take their bye after they play overseas. Saints are scheduled to go play in Paris in October. So will the Saints take their bye after that Paris game? If not, then you have a real challenge from the international travel to then, boom, turn around and play in the next week. That's typically not served teams well. Are you playing a Thursday night game? Thursday night football, if you have to travel, that's a short week where you'd play on a Sunday. You get your basically recovery day Monday. Tuesday it's install, Wednesday you're traveling, and then Thursday you're playing a game. The quick turnaround on when having to travel is tough on Thursday night football. So all those things matter. They do as your schedule sets up. What we know, however, is who you're going to play, and this because that's already determined, right? You play first, second, third, or fourth place schedule. You're going to play your division twice. You're going to play 2 teams from where the entire division, one from the NFC, one from the AFC, 2 divisions that your entire league plays. you're going to play the corresponding order of finish from the previous team from the rest of the other two divisions in your conference. So in this instance, the Saints were third in the division. They'll play the corresponding third place team from last year, and then or last actually, and then because the Falcons, and so and then you play the one other sort of like wild card team since they've added the 17th game. So when you look at the Saints this year, this is one of those things that actually bodes really well for New Orleans. If you look at the opponent's win-loss record from 2025 for this coming season, the Cleveland Browns have the easiest strength of schedule. Their opponent's record was a combined 124 and 165. It's a 429 winning percentage. 31st in the NFL, your New Orleans Saints. Their opponents last year had a combined 434 winning percentage. And part of that is you play in a bad division, no doubt. But so the Saints, 32nd, the Falcons are tied there for 28, but you got a big gap between Tampa and Carolina, who won the division. Tampa has the 21st strength of schedule, and boy, it is going to be really hard to imagine Carolina repeating, as they have the 10th toughest strength of schedule in the entire NFL, playing a first-place schedule this year. Their opponent's a 521 winning percentage. All that to say, I get it. It's the NFL. Everybody has professional football players. Any given Sunday, all that stuff. If you're New Orleans and you're trying to get back into the playoffs for the first time after a 5-year absence, I'd rather play a last-place schedule. That's the second easiest by opponent's record year to year than the first-place schedule. Doesn't bode well for Carolina, maybe bodes well for New Orleans in particular if Tyler Shuck takes that step year 1 to year 2. We do also have a quick update on Cam Jordan here. I'll do that in a second. We're brought to you by Parish Restoration. ParishRestoration.com, ParishRestoration.com. Kill mold, remove odor, other harmful pathogens. Call Parish Restoration or log on to ParishRestoration.com. Super easy. Go to the website, fill out the form on the homepage. They'll give you that free estimate over at ParishRestoration.com. They'll come in, they'll spray their patented non-toxic dry fog. As soon as the fog dissipates, you're back in, sanitized, clean, great smelling, mold-free. It's mold remediation done right the first time. It's Parish Restoration. And, of course, you can do all your remediation as well. Smoke cleanup, odor elimination. Just check them out online to learn about all the different services that they offer at ParishRestoration.com, ParishRestoration.com, ParishRestoration.com. One of the potential suitors for Cam Jordan that many have considered is Dennis Allen and the Chicago Bears. That makes sense. DA was the defensive coordinator in New Orleans and then subsequently the head coach. So now he's the DC with the Chicago Bears. So there's been a lot of conversation that perhaps Cam Jordan, who remains an unrestricted free agent, could land with his former defensive coordinator in Chicago. It's worth mentioning that was also a conversation about Demario Davis when he was a free agent. Might he be signed by and land with the Bears? And Dennis Allen, we know that didn't happen. Davis is with the Jets. And Dennis Allen gave an interview with the Chicago Sun-Times, and he said, quote, "I don't know that there's been a ton of discussion." Oh, you got the audio? Oh, yeah, here it is. Here was DA.
I don't know that there's been a ton of discussion about that. I think we feel pretty good about, where we're at and what we have. And yet, you never know what opportunities might present themselves at some point down the road.
So, DA not closing the door. The Bears were not very good. They were 22nd in the NFL last year with just 35 sacks. Cam Jordan had 10.5, as we well know. A very nice bounce-back season for a guy approaching his age 37 season, but a guy that remains unsigned. And we know what Cam Jordan wants. He wants a multi-year contract with guarantees. The Saints don't seem willing to give him that. Mickey Loomis, just a couple of weeks ago, said this on Mad Dog Radio.
Yeah, listen, we've had good conversations with Cam, and we'll continue to have that, and hopefully he's back with us for, I don't know, what is it, the 200th year of his career here. No, I mean, Cam has meant so much to our franchise, and he's had just a great career, and I'd be really excited if the Saints were the only team that he ever played for. So hopefully we can make that happen.
Well, the one guy who can make it happen is Mickey Loomis. He hasn't made it happen yet, which tells you that the roadblock is on the other side. Cam Jordan has something he wants by way of his contract, and the Saints have not yet been willing to offer it. So we'll see if they're able to reach that impasse, or maybe Cam Jordan ends up in another uniform to end his career. As that develops, we'll certainly keep you posted. All right, let me knock out a quick break. Tuesday shows are powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Chris Smith wrote the feature piece on Lane Kiffin for Vanity Fair. Chris Smith joins us next on AFR.
AFR.
Rev Fiber, R-E-V, Rev Fiber. Man, I love telling you about Rev. They're a great local business. Been here in Louisiana for 90 years. 90 years, the folks over at Rev. When you call Rev, you call their customer service, their call center, you're getting a local call center, someone here answering the phone. You're not shipped to an overseas call center. It's not AI. You're talking to someone here locally. One of the reasons I love dealing with Rev, but also on top of that, you're talking about with their fiber, you're talking about lightning fast internet speeds, up to 5 gigs, and the security of an all-fiber network. It's incredible. Rev is Louisiana's largest locally owned and operated internet service provider, 5-star customer service and reliability, but it's not just internet, phone, cable, security, automation for your home, for your business. They can do it all. It's Rev Fiber. R-E-V, RevFiber.com, RevFiber.com. River Parish Contractors, they are hiring. So if you're looking for work, you need to get in touch with River Parish Contractors. Call Big Jake over at River Parish Contractors. I'll give you the number here in just a quick second. Even if you're not looking for work, maybe you should be, because I know a lot of people might be working at spots that just don't want to offer you overtime. Not River Parish Contractors. They got tons of work. They got plenty of overtime, and you can work as much of it as you want. You want to work night shifts when it's cooler? Awesome. River Parish Contractors. They're hiring pipe fitters, boiler makers, crane operators, welders, pipe cutters. Check them out at rpcontractors.com or call my buddy Big Jake over at River Parish Contractors. Here's the number: 318-547-1000, 318-547-1000, 318-547-1000 for Big Jake over at River Parish Contractors.
After further review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
Todd Walker will be here in 15 minutes. Talk a little baseball. Wilson Alexander on 3 next hour. Lane Kiffin going viral is nothing new. Lane Kiffin having to apologize for the reason he went viral is a little bit different. Chris Smith wrote the feature piece in Vanity Fair on Lane Kiffin. He's good enough to join us now. Chris, we appreciate the time. How are you?
I'm good, Matt. Thank you for having me on. It's been an interesting 36 hours.
How much?
Apparently, people are passionate about SEC football and Lane Kiffin. I have no idea.
No kidding, right? How much sports content have you done over your career?
A fair amount. You know, I wrote a book with D.C. Sabathia, the Yankees' former pitcher, now Hall of Famer. Did a big profile of Derek Jeter in his final season. Going back to John Starks and Knicks and all kind. I don't know, off the top of my head, a whole bunch.
Sure. The SEC can be a wild beast. I'm curious what your reaction is to the reaction of the feature, notably the quote that everybody's talking about today.
Yeah, it's certainly gotten some attention, and the range of opinions. You know, while I'm not going to pretend to know everything that's been said in every social media post, it's been fascinating because people have weighed in with a lot of history, a lot of perspectives, and I can't characterize it as a majority this or that, but it just really speaks to the complexities, I think, of sports and racial culture and where those things meet.
Going in, did you anticipate the conversation crossing that barrier?
No, it was just surprising completely to me that he took it in that direction. I had asked him a question about how he weighed different factors in making a choice to jump from Ole Miss to LSU. And Kiffin started talking about, fairly conventional stuff, the amount of money that each school and its allies had to contribute to the program, the history of the relative programs, and then he took it in the direction of the quote everyone has recirculated, sitting with recruits and their families and them drawing the distinction between the diversity as they saw it in Oxford versus Baton Rouge.
The question that I was so fascinated after I finished the piece was just that, Chris. It was, how does something like that even come up? So you would characterize it as not necessarily leading the conversation. Lane just volunteered that opinion?
Completely.
Yeah.
And I have no idea. Did he get up in the morning with a list of 6 points he wanted to make when I interviewed him? I have no idea. It was a free-flowing conversation, 3+ hours one afternoon and close to an hour a second day, and we covered a lot of ground. And, some of his answers rambled a bit, and he, came back to a central point. This one was not a direction that he had signaled earlier on.
Chris Smith, our guest of Vanity Fair, wrote the feature on Lane Kiffin. I'm so interested. By the way, can you maybe just take a second, Chris, and give our audience some context? You alluded to it there on how the interview was sort of structured, but maybe could you elaborate a little bit more on what you all did and how long you were together and sort of that context?
Yeah, no question. I had, like a lot of sports fans, watched all the saga unfold last November. Talked to my editors about the fact that, there was this sort of immediate drama, but Kiffin himself had an interesting up and down life. And it also seemed to strike a nerve with a lot of fans because of larger issues in college sports, NIL, portal, instability, big money. And I'm always particularly interested in people at the center of media storms. They're in headlines a lot. They get caricatured. And I'm always curious, who is the actual person in there? Is more often than not, that person is more complex than the caricatures make him or her out to be. So that was essentially my pitch for the story, and went to LSU folks in January maybe and asked about the possibility of sitting down with Lane, and they invited me to come down during spring practice mid-April. And yeah, I sat in his office there in the football complex. It's just him and me, no handlers, something I give him tremendous credit for. A lot of people in big deal jobs always want somebody holding their hand when it comes to talking to reporters. He doesn't. So we talked at length one afternoon. His son came in after finishing up class at high school. And then he had to go to a staff meeting. And I went to practice the next morning. Kiffin spontaneously organized a scrimmage among the assistant coaches and had Jamarcus Russell play quarterback because Russell happened to be in the building that day. That was a lot of fun. And then after practice, went back up to his office and, reviewed some of what we'd covered the previous day and asked a few more questions. And man, as a reporter, I spend a lot of my time just trying to get subjects to talk. And so I am never going to complain when a subject is eager to talk and elaborate and, field any question I want to throw at them. And it got to the point where I had to say, Lane, man, this is really interesting, but I got a plane to catch. So we've followed up a bit on the phone since then. And, it's pretty straightforward. That's how it unfolded.
Chris, do you think, because you did parenthetically add after Lane's quote that he sort of redressed it the next day that you're talking about, do you get the sense that he knew after you all were done that was going to become a big deal?
I don't know whether he thought it would become a big deal. I'm sure, because he said it, that thinking back overnight about our conversation the previous day, there were some things he wanted to expand on. And, as is quoted in the story, he wanted to make it clear he didn't feel this was taking a shot at Ole Miss. So he probably had some sense that he had, stepped into potentially risky ground. Unlike a lot of people I've interviewed, and again, I give him massive credit for this, he didn't say, hey, I don't want you to use that. Can you not use that? I'm taking it back. I meant that was off the record. There was none of that. He said the opposite. He said, use whatever I said, write whatever you want. I said it, and, I just want to add this bit about, I don't think it was taking a shot at Ole Miss.
Chris Smith's with us for a couple more minutes here. You wrote a line. But Chris, just for context on us, we're still getting to know Lane Kiffin, right? I mean, I've known Lane Kiffin from afar for a lot of years as he coached Ole Miss and been a coach, but I don't know Lane Kiffin, right? I mean, I've interviewed him in press conferences and whatnot, but that's about the extent of it. We haven't broken bread or had long form conversations. You have a line which, to me, is, I think, fascinating. And most people who read the story know what I'm going to say, but you write, after 4 hours of talking with Kiffin, I'm stumped. Is he endearingly sincere or so full of, excuse me, kids, I am going to curse for the context of the story. Is he endearingly sincere or is he so full of shit that it's an art form? And then you quote Feinbaum, who says, I first met him in 2009 and I can't decide either. So
Right.
You've had some time now to reflect on the time you spent with Lane Kiffin. What do you think of Lane? What is your opinion of Lane Kiffin?
I like him. I think he's a really fascinating character. I think he is genuine and straight, especially when it comes to the ups and downs of his personal life. I think he's also a really skilled salesman, which in that job, in this day and age, to succeed at that level is an absolute necessity. And to me, that was one of the more intriguing things. People are, and I understand why, worked up about the racial comment. But to me, what was really intriguing about it was, whatever the facts may be, and whether you think it was offensive for him to raise it, here's a guy who's signaling pretty clearly that he's going to use every weapon and angle at his disposal to win, right? And he was wearing red and blue for a bunch of years. Now he's wearing, gold and purple, and he has no hesitation about using whatever weapons he can to make LSU a champion.
It's the race part of it too. I think it is important to note in the quote, Lane Kiffin didn't mention, unless if there's a part of the quote that was omitted, so you'd have to clarify this, Confederate flag or Colonel Rebel or the nickname Ole Miss. Those are things that were included in the feature as you were giving context. Did you feel that was essential to mention those things, especially given the fact that those are going to be words or items that do trigger people that maybe added more emphasis to the quote?
Yeah, we thought it was necessary because you don't want to assume the readership of Vanity Fair knows in great detail, the history of Ole Miss and the sports program. So, especially when Kiffin, is talking about people's grandparents and segregation, when you bring that into it, that's him signaling, I believe, the context in which that conversation took place. He's not raising that in a vacuum in regard to Ole Miss. So, yeah, it seemed significant or worth painting that context a little more clearly.
Sure. Appreciate the explanation. Last thing for you, and this may be really tough to answer, Chris, but I love asking this question whenever I talk to an author or a director, someone who's making a long-form movie. You said you spoke with Lane Kiffin for 4 hours. This is a long feature story, but clearly not everything is in there. Not everything can make the story, right? So what ended up on the cutting room floor that maybe you would have liked to have included?
Oh, wow. He talked at length about how heavily he came down on the fact that he didn't want to be this February, this March, this April still in Oxford, and thinking, man, I regret not taking that LSU job. I thought that was really interesting. Maybe also he talked quite a bit about his relationship with Saban, and how that's certainly had its up and downs, but, they're on good terms now. Saban was texting him while I was there in the office. And, Kiffin really wants to be a winner in that kind of mold. Maybe not as a personality. They're obviously very different people, but in terms of football legacy.
He sure mimics Nick Saban a lot. I don't know if you picked up on that at all. Or
but here maybe you know this because you're deep into this, and you know a whole lot. That was interesting to me that didn't get in a story. Thank you for reminding me of that. Is that Kiffin told me at the outset of this whole business in the fall, he thought for a long time he was going to land at Florida, in part because he grew up loving the Gators and Spurrier in particular, that he wears the visor because of Spurrier, and that he's modeled himself in style, like the banter, the back and forth, the cutting remarks after Spurrier. So I thought that was kind of fun.
I think that is fascinating. I don't know that I've heard him say he wears a visor because of Spurrier. Maybe somewhere along the way he has, but fascinating stuff. I mean, the thing about Lane Kiffin, Chris, it's undeniable, is whether people love him or hate him, he is never boring. He is just... No,
and something that hasn't really gotten attention, but I'm curious what you think, is he talks in the story, Kiffin talks about sports essentially as a transaction, right? That Ole Miss, however it ended, they should be happy. He made the place a lot of money. He won a lot of games. And, he's a grown-up. We understand this is big business. But there's still a lot of emotion involved in college sports. And, when he's recruiting, he's talking to kids about, come be part of this tradition and all that kind of stuff. I wondered how that description of his, that this is all business, I wonder how that strikes people.
I've said it many times, Chris, and again, in the limited experience that I've had with, the last 5 months, right, covering Lane Kiffin, he is a transactional person, not a relational person. And in a different era of college sports, I think being relational was so important in recruiting. Now, a lot of times it's highest bidder. So his transactional nature probably serves him very well at this place in this moment in college football. He's a fascinating guy, man. And I understand why a lot of people at Ole Miss are upset with him and will forever be. But he's a great offensive mind. That's undeniable. And he is a really, really interesting figure in college sports. Got to know a little bit more about him in your feature piece. Chris Smith from Vanity Fair. We appreciate the time, and thanks so much for, I know your phone's probably ringing off the hook, man. Thanks for picking up today and taking a few minutes.
Appreciate you having me. Be well. You're going to have an interesting ride in Baton Rouge with Lane.
Hey, man, it's great for business, man. I'm not complaining a lick. Thank you, Chris.
All right. Be well.
Good stuff. Thank you. That's Chris Smith. And my guy, probably, I don't know if he's a Yankee fan, but he wrote about that Muse, wrote about CC, wrote about Derek Jeter, number 2.
I was about to say, you got to give the number after. I saw his book about CC in his bio when I was looking him up earlier.
Might have to go check that out a little bit. Old Captain Crunch. What? That's his name.
I it's just funny.
Charleston Chew.
Yeah. How many more you got?
That's it. All right, we're late. Todd Walker next.
AFR.
GLO, glowresources.com, glowresources.com, complete employer solutions. That's where you'll find them, Glow Resources. Hey, remember, while Glow Resources, I actually was driving down Perkins today, right there between Essen and College. Passed right in front of the Glow Resources building near Pennington. Remember, home base is right there on Perkins Road in Baton Rouge. Got a New Orleans office as well. But they help businesses all over the country and sometimes find employees for work all over the world. But home base is here. Actually, right now, I just saw this post. They're hiring for a sales representative for a business in Gonzales. So if you're interested, check them out. glowresources.com, glowresources.com. Louisiana's #1 workforce and staffing leader. It's Glow Resources. If you're looking for a job, you can go to glowresources.com/careers. But if you're a business owner, they want to hear from you. They'll help you find that permanent solution. GLO, glowresources.com.
After further review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
What gets me? She thinks my tractor's sexy.
Baseball Tigers going to play out the string, barring a miracle in Hoover. That's where their season will end this year. Todd Walker, former Tiger, great SEC Network, good enough to hang out with us here for a couple minutes. Yo, T-Dub, how are you?
What's up, Matt? Everything is good, man. How are you?
I'd be doing a lot better if the Tigers were going to play baseball in June. But,
yeah.
You know, they've given us a lot to cheer for over the years. Still, man, it's hard to put a finger on how this unraveled so badly, Todd. I mean, when you look at it, you come up with any answers?
Not for me. I mean, you lose your number one, your number two, and your best hitter off any team. It's going to be very difficult. That being said, then you look at the free passes, the walks, the hit by pitches, the errors, bottom of the league, and all of that. And that, you know, when I've been tracking this too, by the way, Matt, for the last few years. And it's usually Missouri. But any team that leads the league in walks, it's directly correlated to your record. And that's what's happened this year, not only with LSU, but with Missouri and Vanderbilt. And South Carolina has all their other issues. But 8-0 to start, second in the country. I think that's what got a lot of people excited. And then they went 21-24 since. That being said, and I got one more excuse for them. They didn't play Missouri.
Yeah.
So if you put Missouri in there when instead of Mississippi State, who swept them, Ole Miss, who swept them, that's 3 more wins at home in Baton Rouge, you could assume. That's 12. They would have probably snuck in. But it wasn't pretty.
Man.
And, you know, look, I mean, the not being able to throw a strike was the main problem.
You and I talked about this a few weeks ago, man, and ever since you said it, you went really detailed about pitch calling and 2-2 counts, and it was fascinating to listen to. And so I've been paying more attention at it even since we last talked. You got to watch LSU this weekend and call the game 2 in Georgia. I'm curious your observation just on that, because a lot of people are asking the question, Todd, like, how much blame for the pitching issues this year does Nate Yeskie shoulder? Where do you fall there? Like, what should we be looking at?
The only active coach to be in Omaha with 4 different teams. He's won 2 national championships with Oregon State and LSU. So that's a fair question, and I think he would answer it fairly. And without going to him directly and attacking, I talked to him a lot this weekend. Nate Yeskie knows what he's doing. So what I think, he's asking kids to do stuff that they can't do. Not only that, I think he sees it in the bullpen. All right, 2-0 count, throw the curveball right here for a strike. And they do it. Enough to have confidence that when they go into the game, that they could do it again. And they can't. But what you know, the main thing for me, and I think you said it, and you're right, if you have a problem with walks, why are we not going back to our primary pitch? And if they beat you, they beat you. Because, look, at the end of the day, I played a lot of tennis, Matt. And so with my second serve, am I going to go for it and give them 5, 6, 8 points? Or am I going to flop it in there, which is what I did, and not give them anything? And if they earn it, they earn it. And that's the way I'm built. So if you go into Georgia and I go, look, when I coached high school baseball, I didn't let my guys throw an off-speed pitch unless it was 0-2 or 1-2. Because at the high school level, they can't land their off-speed, especially in hitters' counts. And so that's what I did. And that was the best we could do. And so for me, I just felt like, and they'll address it because clearly there was a problem.
Yeah.
But the main thing is LSU, like I told you, Nate's not giving in. And so it's almost to the point where when you're playing LSU, if I get 2-0, 3-1, 3-2, I'm getting a curveball. And so you can sit on it. And I think people started to learn that. So now if you're sitting on a pitch, you can either expect it and you see it better and you take it, or you're expecting it and they land it and they put it over the plate and you at the very least foul it off, but you can hit it, The reason those work is because it's about the element of surprise. But the element of surprise wasn't there for LSU.
You encourage, Todd Walker's our guest. Well, this is probably a leading question. If I ask, how encouraged are you by the young players? Let me just ask a broader question so you take it where you want. What have you made of the four freshmen in particular, Patrick and Ruckert and Braun and Cerna?
Well, Patrick and Ruckert were the two best players in the state of Louisiana last year. So they've got a little moxie, that when you come into – it is LSU. But if you have that stamped to your name, then, as a kid, I had that. I felt pretty good about myself, even though I was walking into a national championship team after 1991. And so for those two guys, Ruckert won three state championships with Catholic. And so I think and the great thing about this year is they got a chance to play here at the end, and they'll roll right into next year. So if you're looking at next year's team, most of the staff is back. I think Cooper Moore might even be back, but he may go. Who knows? But they get Jason Evans back. Marcos Paz, they really like. I mean, he didn't pitch his senior year because of surgery, but Jay Johnson told us this weekend that if Marcos Paz did pitch his senior year, he wouldn't be with us. He'd be in pro ball. And that's how good they think Marcus Paz is. I think Guidry and Schmidt and Rizzi and Sheeran and on down the line, Lockenmeyer, I think has some potential. So next year, you replace the shortstop and the center fielder, and then you roll. And Jay loves winning in odd years, right? 23 national champs, 25 national champs, 27 national champs.
I'm here for it. Your lips to God's ears. Todd Walker is our guest. Hey, but Jay has also talked about how he may do things differently, building certainly the power numbers from their recruiting classes and developing internally. Todd, how do you suspect he may balance returning players and the portal this offseason?
Less portal. And mainly because there's not, I told you this before, and you know this, there's no Paul Skeens anymore. There's no, I think a lot of times when those type of players put themselves into the portal, it's just to get leverage with their own team. I talked to Josh Jordan a little bit about this year, about him. It's got to be tough for those guys because I heard them rolling names and ideas and thoughts around about, being in Omaha last year and having those 2 days before the national championship series and doing it all in recruiting. Is there a disadvantage to making it all the way to the end with the portal that only lasts through the month of June or whatever? He's absolutely. Look at Ole Miss after 22, Mississippi State after 21. It's kind of like the Jerry Maguire thing. You didn't give me enough personal attention, so I'm going over here. And so that's a real thing. But I think for Jay, I think you heard him definitively say he's going to build from within because that's Cade Anderson, that's Jake Brown. If there's a Paul Skeens or Tommy White out there, they'll try to get them, and I think LSU above anybody else has the best chance to do that. But back to what I was telling you, I think they were juggling 30 or 40 guys around at one time. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Now it would be much less, where you have more personal attention to that recruit that we're trying to get on campus. And so, who you put it short? I mean, remember, Stephen Milan played second base to start first year and then moved over there. So can Ruckert do it? I don't know. But I think they're definitely going to be younger and try to develop from there.
Let me throw a hypothetical. If there is a Gavin Keelan in the portal, Maui Ahuna, do you go sign that player
for 1 year?
Yeah, or do you go Ruckert, Klaus, something like that? One of your.
Well, let me ask you this: if you stuck your hand in the fire and got burned, would you do it again?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because Todd, I could also argue
to.
that this year, please tell me if you disagree. This year feels like the exception. There's been far more Danny Dickinson, Tommy White examples than Zach York.
Yeah, and no, I was kidding. And
I know what you
right.
mean. I know what you mean.
And hey, look, Matt, pulling a home run guy in like Zach York is much, and expecting him to do what you think he's going to do is much different than pulling a defender in to play shortstop that may or may not hit, because defense doesn't slump. That's a staple. And so if they're looking for a shortstop, I guarantee he's going for a defender. And if he hits, great. But you pull a home run guy in and expect him to hit 30 home runs at LSU from Grand Canyon or anywhere else in the country. Caraway, who had 6 home runs in the regional last year alone. Dude has pop. It's cold. The hitters, the pitchers ahead of the hitters, I'm going to give you about 40 or 50 at-bats, and if you don't do it, I'm going to replace you, because that's the only amount of time we have in college baseball as opposed to pro ball. Then I think you go after the defenders. So that's short and center field.
Yeah.
That's all they really needed to replace.
Man, it's going to be T-Dub, I think it's going to be so tempting for Jay, looking at the talented, provided there is a talented guy in the portal at those two positions, not to go after that guy and trust
No, he will,
guys.
Matt. He will. No, he will, but he's not going to block William Patrick. He's not going to block Ruckert.
Yeah.
And on down the line, I mean, you got to replace the shortstop and you got to replace center fielder, and that's where I think he'll look to the portal.
Yeah. How different is this season if Michael Ryan and Ryan Costello are on the LSU roster?
Yeah, well, we could go on down the list, couldn't we? I mean, they started throwing out names that went to other schools, that you're like, wow, what a roster they would have had, But for one reason or another, Henry Ford came from Virginia and didn't follow O'Connor to Mississippi State. He went to Tennessee. And I didn't want to really ask O'Connor that because, there might have been some weird stuff going on there. But it happens. People just go different places. You and I would think, wow, in the world would you not want to play for LSU?
Yeah.
But I've heard a few coaches say this now. You'd think that in Omaha, watching LSU make the run they did last year, or the teams in the past, that would be a great reason to recruit somebody. It's the opposite. They're scared to play there because they don't think they're going to start. They're scared of competition. And I've heard a few coaches say that. I'm like, wow, I didn't think about it that way. But a lot of kids go somewhere else with the guarantee to start, as opposed to LSU, where you're going to have to fight out your position. And like we just saw, it may not play out, and then you're on the bench the rest of the year, and you're 4th or 5th year of college.
Yeah. Better times ahead, no doubt. TWB on the call at the SC tournament, I would guess?
Yeah, Tuesday I have the 2 early games, which may or may not include LSU. I think if they stay at 14, I think they got the afternoon session.
Yeah, that'll be the night.
And then Wednesday on. But I love the SEC tournament, man, because although it's not much of a chance, I think I heard you say, there's a chance. Are you saying there's a chance? You run something out. Look, Casey Evans looked good for like an inning and a half or an inning and a third, the other night. Pause, I think, got a little, he's in Georgia. I think he got a little. I can see a scenario where Casey Evans wins game 1 and, Paz gets in there and does well. Zach Cowan throws well. We've seen him do it. Where they make a little run. Who knows?
Yeah. T-Dub, it's always great to visit, man. We'll do it again soon.
Thanks, man. See you.
Thanks, bud. It's AFR. Wrap up hour 2 next.
AFR.
Brought to you by Duplessis Pools. And check out our friends over at Duplessis Pools. Actually, I've told you about DuplessisBuilders.net for a while. That still works, but they've actually changed the URL to DuplessisPools.com. 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 Pools, outdoor kitchens. They get you to do your putting green. Really cool, man. You want to turn your outdoor area into your own backyard paradise, your outdoor oasis, the place that you want to spend all of your spring and summer days. I can tell you, for me and Erica, it's the best investment we made into our home, man. Drew loves to swim, and we love to be out there. It's great, not only during the spring and summer, but the outdoor kitchen, the fire pit area we have it's where we spend all of our time during the fall and the winter as well. It's just such an amazing thing when you have your own retreat at your place. And, you could think, man, I can't do that, can't afford that, whatever. Look, financing options are available, and they have pools starting less than $50K. Check them out at DuplessisPools.com, DuplessisPools.com, DuplessisPools.com.
After further review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
Climb up in the loft, setting
Been a good show, man. Shay Dixon was here in hour one. Thanks to Chris Smith, who wrote the Vanity Fair piece on Kiffin. Todd Walker here this hour. After Sports Center, we'll get to Wilson Alexander, who has another Kiffin feature that dropped today that's coming up here shortly. Something else that has now officially dropped, as ESPN ABC has released this to the media just a bit ago via press release. LSU's Week 1 game against Clemson, they have confirmed it will be College Game Day. That's now official from ESPN. But also, that will be the primetime ABC night game. Week 2, Ohio State at Texas will be the ABC primetime game. Week 3, LSU's trip to Ole Miss and Oxford will be the ABC primetime game. So 2 of the first 3 weeks of the season, LSU will be playing in primetime on ABC. And as we mentioned, College Game Day Week 1 in Baton Rouge. That is now confirmed. Week 2, they'll be at the Texas-Ohio State game. We're brought to you by the Williamson Eye Center, 924-2020, 924-2020. You want to see 2020, call 924-2020. Dr. Blake Williamson and his staff, man, they're just awesome. I tell you all the time, get rid of the contacts and glasses forever, but it's not just refractive procedures. It's eye care, eyewear, and eye surgery. You can do your eye exam. They can fill or update your prescription. And yes, they can help you ditch the contacts and glasses forever with that refractive procedure. It's the Williamson Eye Center, 924-2020 or williamsoneye.com. I did also post the full schedule for Labor Day weekend, Thursday through Monday. It's up on my Twitter, my Facebook, my Instagram as well. But that Saturday should be a fun day with Clemson and LSU as the headliner.
AFR.
We're brought to you by Rouse's, the official supermarket of the Saints. Rouse's.com. Rouse's.com. Today, of course, is Tuesday, and every Tuesday over at Rouse's, $5 sushi every Tuesday over at Rouse's. So hop on in, grab and go. They've got sushi ready to roll for you. If you love sushi, why not? It's also a Taco Tuesday, so you want some tacos today? Go make it happen over at Rouse's. They are the official supermarket of the Saints with 76 locations from Lake Charles to Orange Beach and points in between. They've still got hot boiled crawfish as long as the season lasts. They've got live Maine lobster. Maybe you missed Mother's Day for whatever reason. You were out of town, mom was out of town, you couldn't celebrate. You want to go celebrate tonight? How about some live Maine lobster from over at Rouse's? And look, you doing your grocery shopping? Check out the weekly ad. See how you can save. Always shop those Rouse's branded products. Make sure you support local. Rouse's. This feels like home.